Okay. Do you remember your first time watching Dracula? 1932? Was it 1932?
1931.
1931.
We're already off to a great start. 1931 Dracula. I watched in 2019. No, that's wrong. I watched it way before then. I was a kid, about probably 9 years old, 9 to 12.
Okay.
There's a
target audience.
Target audience. There's a I don't know if it's local. I think it's nationwide. Called Svengoolie. It's a host that shows these like black and white older films, Universal monster films, and Dracula was one of the films I started watching that kind of segued me into horror completely.
It's a very good segue film.
Yes. How about yourself?
I think I watched it also with my dad. I think I was early teens, maybe like middle school age. I definitely feel like at the time I had seen quite a bit of horror films, and I think my dad was kind of waiting for me to like appreciate this film before showing it to me, because it is one of his favorite films. He has a Bela Lugosi tattoo on his hand. So I knew that it was very important to him to show me that film, and I was just floored by the look of it, by the set pieces, by the honky Bela Lugosi.
You say hunky?
Yeah, he was a heartthrob. I don't personally believe that, but that was in my notes. I said Bela Lugosi was a heartthrob at the time. 1931? Not many nice men to look at that time. But yeah, I thought it was great. It was my intro to like gothic horror, and that's one of my favorite subgenres now.
Okay. For those who don't know what Dracula is about Count Dracula and his holy cow, I can't remember anybody. It is about Count Dracula who goes to Count Dracula to sell him land, and Dracula...
He also stays in his home.
Yes, he stays at his home, and Dracula, lets him... Count Dracula... What's this movie about, Hope?
There are people who like want to kill Dracula. It's based on a book.
Everybody knows this movie.
So we're getting our synopsis from Letterboxd directly, because this is a hard film to describe.
Yeah, everybody knows what it's about, but it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So, a British estate agent travels to Transylvania to meet the mysterious Count Dracula, who is interested in leasing a London castle. After Dracula enslaves the agent and drives him to insanity, the pair return to London together, where Dracula, a secret bloodsucker, a vampire, begins preying on socialites.
Yeah, it's a very hard film to describe if you have not seen it, but I'm going to assume that most people listening to the podcast are familiar with Dracula, at least. There are many different adaptations of this film, but specifically we're talking about the 1931 version. I have recently watched for the first time Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I thought that was wonderful as well. Nosferatu is also like an off-brand version of Dracula, which was written shortly after Dracula was published as well. The film Nosferatu actually came out before the Dracula film.
Which is interesting because Nosferatu was based off of Dracula. The original, the 1922 Nosferatu, was based off of Dracula.
The book.
The book. Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is the book.
Yes.
Nosferatu was based off of that, but for copyright reasons, they made it into Nosferatu and not Dracula, which is why there's differences in that.
Yeah.
So they're separate, but kind of the same.
There are like many spin-offs as well of the book Dracula. Van Helsing comes from Dracula. There's also a movie that came out a couple years ago.
Twilight.
Yeah, a couple years ago. Twilight is based on freaking Dracula. Everything we know and love, basically. There was also a movie that came out a couple years ago called The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Did you watch that?
I enjoyed that.
Me too. And it was like a chapter of Dracula.
Yes, it was a weird movie, but it was very good. It was all taking place on a ship during World War II or something like that?
Yes.
And World War I.
They were transporting Dracula.
They were transporting, yes, the Nazi, wasn't it the Nazis were transporting Dracula?
And he was like biting people on the ship.
And the ship was the Demeter, which is the ship that Dracula goes across the sea in a very famous scene in Dracula.
Yeah, there's a lot of incredible content to be made from Dracula. So it's very pivotal just to the history of horror in general. A little bit about Bram Stoker. He was an Irish author who was active in the late 17th century. And Dracula was published in 1897. And the movie adaptation came out just 34 years later. And Bram Stoker actually wasn't even alive to see the film adaptation of it. Dracula was also a stage play before the film came out in 1924. That was written, and Bela Lugosi played Dracula on Broadway.
And the film...
Or was it the West End in the UK?
He did a bunch of Dracula. I know he played Dracula on a lot of plays, which is why he got the job.
Yeah.
But the film isn't based on the book. It's based on the play, which is based on the book.
Yeah.
There's a lot of legalities to Dracula and Nosferatu, but yeah, the movie Dracula is based on the play, which is based on the book.
So the play was written by John L. Balderston. It was written with the intent to be performed on Broadway, not the intent to be made into a film.
Yes.
But that's where it gets interesting to me, at least. Bela Lugosi had time to develop this character on stage before putting it into film, which a lot of actors don't have the privilege of doing. So basically, Bela Lugosi is Dracula.
Which is interesting to think about because Lon Chaney, not Lon Chaney Jr., but Lon Chaney Sr., was supposed to play Dracula.
After them already knowing that Bela Lugosi was playing Dracula.
Unfortunately, Lon Chaney was dying and...
In pre-production.
In pre-production, yes. And he passed away and Bela Lugosi became Dracula. The rest is history.
Yep. It didn't finish
it, yeah.
All right.
So Bela Lugosi became Dracula, and the director of the film...
Todd Browning?
Todd Browning was not enthusiastic about the film, and so had his cinematographer, Carl Frood, direct most of it, kind of. Even though he's not considered a director on some releases. Some releases, I believe he is.
Some people do, consider them co-directors, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I think Carl Freud deserves that recognition because Todd Browning didn't really... He gave up. He gave up on it, yeah. But let's get into Todd Browning, huh?
All right.
So Todd Browning was the director of Dracula. He was born in July 12th, 1880. Lived till 1962 at 82 years old, wow. October 6th.
I want to talk to someone born in 1880.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to think about. At age of 16, he ran away from the circus. He became a contortionist.
Crazy life.
Yes, he acted as a live burial act, playing the hypnotic corpse. He joined the Ringling Brothers as a clown. In 1906, he became a vaudevillian actor, changed his name to Todd, which in German means death.
That's crazy.
Which is why he changed it. He became a blackface comedian, magician's assistant. 29 years old, 1909, he began acting in slapstick comedy shorts. He got his chance to direct a couple. They're really short, 30 seconds, like TikTok.
He was making TikToks?
He's making TikToks. And then 1915, he was kind of getting momentum, but he also had alcoholism. And so he was an alcoholic, and one day he was driving drunk, crashed into a train, a locomotive at a railway crossing, killing his passenger and harming the other and himself. It ended his acting career and began his journey into writing and directing. And his career shift focused less on comedies and more on melodramas and serious works, which in 1919 he then started working for Universal and went on a string of successful silent films. And in 1929 to 39 he began his movies with sound. Freaks and Dracula were most notable of his.
That's when I think of Todd Browning, my mind goes to Freaks.
Yeah, you don't think of Dracula.
Yeah, until like doing research on this film, I didn't even realize that he was the director of Dracula.
He had a life, that's for sure. He directed 2 phenomenal horror films, Freaks and Dracula.
One thing that makes me sad is that a lot of people like our age now, unless they've grown up watching horror films, don't give movies like this a shot. Like anything in black and white, anything before like 1980, people just don't want to watch. Because I feel like these days we have like our expectations are much higher on like what a horror film is. But if you think about like the people in 1931 who like are used to watching like silent films and things that aren't very intense, this film was terrifying to them. They had never seen an actor like Bela Lugosi playing a character like that. And like this was saucy for the time as well.
Oh yes.
Very controversial. And yeah. Like they were sucking on people's necks.
Yeah, it's a very sexual movie.
Yeah.
Vampires in itself are sexual.
Yeah.
And you know, it was chock full of that. And Bela Lugosi was, you know, all hot and
provocative.
Bothered. Provocative, yes. Getting guys and women, you know, to fall under his spell. Yeah. Speaking of when the audience in 1931, this came out as a silent film, and then it had the studio version with the sound, and then there's a Spanish version which is lost, but it's filmed with different actors and a different director.
That's really interesting. I would love to see that.
It was found in Cuba in the 70s and 80s.
Is it like distributed?
I think you could find it on like YouTube.
Okay.
Or it might be sold now. Some of it, I know some of it is still lost, but apparently it's supposed to be. People say it's better than this.
That's kind of crazy.
Dracula. Wow. Some of the theaters didn't have the capability to record or to
like play sound.
So they came out with a silent version, and you can find that version as well. There's also that soundtrack was never on it until 1990s when they did the remaster. Universal did the remaster for this film.
That's when we have Swan Lake.
That's when Swan Lake happens.
Iconic song.
Yeah. Tchaikovsky's.
In terms of Dracula. Yeah. Yeah. It was also released 1931, obviously during the Great Depression in the United States. But that was when like Hollywood was booming in the 1930s. That was called the Golden Age of Hollywood. And I think a lot of people underestimate how important horror films were at the time. A lot of people like didn't go to the theater for anything other than horror films. And this is why we see so many like Universal Monsters films coming out like consecutively, like some multiple in the same year. And, you know, they kind of saved Hollywood a little bit.
They kind of did. And this is the first talkie horror film, too. It's important to note. And, you know, they had a budget of $355,050, which doesn't sound like a lot, but today's money is $6,958,992, which during the stock market crash and everything that was going on, even though it's the golden age of Hollywood, it's kind of scary.
Yeah. And people aren't gonna like spend money to go see a movie. At that time.
Tickets were 25 to 35 cents, which is $5.33 and $7.46 that estimate per ticket, it made a profit of $89,078, which is $1,746,178.
That's pretty good, which probably went directly into making more Universal monster films.
Yes, that's above. So they're above the line. That's
Yeah.
what they made. And it's impressive because like you said, stock market crash, people aren't really wanting to go see movies, but what are they going to do to cheer themselves up? Maybe scrap a little bit to get out of the way and watch a, Dracula and Bela Lugosi suck some necks.
Yep. I would have done that. Speaking of Bela Lugosi, he was a great person. Maybe he did blackface like Todd Browning, and I just don't know that. If he did, I take that back. He was a longtime workers' rights activist and anti-fascist in the early 20th century, which was huge at the time because we were also dealing with the World War II.
World War One.
And then into World War II. World War One. Yeah, he was very outspoken for pretty much his whole life. His story gets a little sad near the end. He died alone, pretty much. He struggled with addiction towards the end of his life. I could also do a whole nother episode about Ed Wood.
I was going to mention Ed Wood, yes.
Ed Wood by Tim Burton is one of my favorite films ever. And that's pretty much where I know all of my knowledge about Bela Lugosi is from that movie. But he was very close with filmmaker Ed Wood, who is labeled like one of the worst filmmakers of all time.
Yeah.
But he had like a great crew working on stuff with him. They would do anything for Ed.
We probably won't ever review an Ed Wood film.
Oh yeah, no. But fascinating person.
Good movie though. Watch it if you want to learn more about Bela Lugosi at the end stages of his life. It does portray a good picture.
I would. He's probably close to like, what's his name? Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, he's like the Tommy Wiseau, but just
like
kind
of the 1940s.
I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. Not as weird as Tommy Wiseau.
No.
Still, a cockroach in this movie had its own coffin, and I'll never live that down.
In like the first scene.
And one of the
it was adorable.
It comes out of its own little baby coffin that was forced perspective, but it was great. What? Wolfbane was used to prevent Dracula, not garlic, which is the common misconception is that garlic offends Draculas.
Yeah. I mean, it probably would, like, if they tried it. Right?
I guess I never saw Dracula eat, like, a spaghetti parm.
Yeah.
So we don't know. But also, in this Dracula film, Dracula isn't just seen shifting into a bat, which is, Dracula's a bat. That's it.
Of course.
He was also a wolf. We never see the wolf.
Yeah.
But he gets shifted into a wolf.
It's like off screen.
Off screen.
Can you like hear his howl?
He's going into a wolf. And then you hear,
yeah.
I think my favorite part of this film is the trip from the Demeter with Renfield, and he's got the laugh. And he's looking down. It's the shot of him looking down the stairs.
Renfield was also another one that there have been spin-offs.
Yes,
of as well. Iconic
character.
Cage.
Nicolas Cage with the Renfield movie. Do you have a favorite? Do you remember any?
I really enjoy the carriage scene when he arrives at the castle, which I think they did a great job of recreating in the newest Nosferatu film by Robert Eggers. I think that was my favorite film of last year. But I just think it was so iconic and like grand feeling. That's just how I feel about the entire movie. It was just very breathtaking and goth.
Yeah. It's a good movie for kids, and we don't want to over-explain this film.
Yeah, it's a great, like you said, segue movie into getting someone into horror films, especially a young person, because it's not super overly intense, gory, sexual, no matter what they say in the 1930s.
Yeah. I mean, you could read into that, and there definitely is, the theme and themes,
but the kids aren't gonna know that.
No,
they'll probably think it's very cool.
They'll watch it a couple years later and be like, "Wow, this is."
Oh yeah, there's more to take away from it.
Yeah.
When you're older.
Yeah, and it's just a great movie, and I think everybody should watch this film. This is one of those films that, regardless of if you like horror or not, you should watch this film.
It's also like a time capsule.
It is.
What films were like in the 1930s, and it kind of just snowballed into everything we know now about horror is probably based off of Dracula or another Universal monster film from the time.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening to this mini episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We once again have an email if you would like to request anything. Let us know what you think of the podcast in general. It's realscared@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. We'll catch you in the next episode.